Welcome to Connect Vegas. We feature conversations with Las Vegas creators and leaders, learn about their work, and explore our shared love of our favorite city. And now, welcome our host, Ben Laifsky.
Hi, I'm Ben Laifsky, and this is another episode of Connect Vegas. I'm here on a beautiful October evening, just really loving the fall as it comes down finally off of 100 degrees. Tonight, I want to introduce a conversation with my good friend Shahab Zargari. Many of you might know Shahab. He is a local filmmaker. He's a creative. He's been a videographer for years. He works with the UNLV departments of fine arts. He's really a Renaissance man, and I have enormous admiration for him. He's also a very unassuming person. He's very full of heart. He's got a variety of interests, and all of that comes out in this conversation. I am very glad to share this with you, and I hope you really enjoy this conversation with. Hi, and welcome back to Connect Vegas. I'm Ben, and I'm here with Shahab Zargari. Shahab, maybe you can introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Sure. Hi there. Thanks for having me, Ben. I am a local filmmaker and administrative faculty member at the UNLV College of Fine Arts. It's great to be here.
All right. You have a number of different ventures going. I'd like to maybe cover broadly
Sure.
some of those. Maybe we could start with the record label.
Sure. The record label is something that started in basically the Inklings began in 1998. The first official release, I took some student loan money that was meant for books in college and I put out a vinyl record with it. And it was just kind of something for fun. It was a little bit of for fun, but it was also, I was always in bands and musical projects, but none of the big record labels were even remotely interested in what I had to do and what we were doing. And so it just became like a self-sufficient thing. How do we put out our own CDs and records and things of that nature? And somehow it's got its own ecosystem. It's doing its own thing. 23 years later, almost 24 years. It's a fun little hobby. I usually tell people it's like someone with the 57 Chevy that they tinker with, right? They throw money at it, they buy a new carburetor when they can afford it, they tinker when they can, but it's more of a hobby than anything else. Um, in fact, before we dive into anything else, right around the time LimeWire and Napster and all of those things crushed the music industry, this was, I think, the early 2000s, maybe 2002, 2003. The label at that point had gotten fairly large and we were doing all things pretty legit, doing contracts with the bands. Now no longer this kind of like side hustle kind of thing. But it was at that point when the big guys were hurt really bad with file sharing and iTunes didn't exist yet, Spotify didn't exist yet, things of that nature. And three of our distributors closed down. Only one of those three sent us a box of our stuff back, and none of them gave us the money that they owed us. And we were in dire straits. And so I looked at my wife and I said, either we close up shop, and this was like a good legacy that we can talk about with our kids at some point, or we move it back into the hobby space. And then at that point, a hobby can never go bankrupt. And that's what we did. And so now every release that we have is its own art project with its own benefactors, its own fundraisers and money people and artists and things of that nature. Yeah, it's pretty fun. And 2029 will be the 30th anniversary. So what are we going to do for that? It'll be fun.
That's amazing. And then you said filmmaker, but maybe you could expand on that because you've done quite a lot there.
Yeah, so I was born in Los Angeles, and so I'd always wanted to be in the movies, make movies. Being from LA, my elementary school, when people would bring their parents in for career week, there was always one or two people whose parents worked on VFX or who worked on this or that. Like I remember, can't remember if it was third or fourth grade, one of the bring your parent to work days, the dad worked on the special effects of the first Poltergeist. So he brought in, at the time, like he wheeled in this VCR and played us behind the scenes footage of him working on the house imploding at the end. It was just insane to me that you could get paid to have fun. I never thought I had what it took. I never had the confidence. I was urged by my parents not to go into the arts for college, do something sensible, do something where you can at least fall back on it kind of thing. And so my undergrad, I went for sociology, which is the study of the hive mind, a study of the masses and how marketing and religion and politics sway large groups of people. And so that led me into marketing. And then marketing led me to, fast forward, 2010, ended up nabbing a TV commercial for the Luxor Casino. And on that shoot, I was basically, if anyone's familiar with Mad Men, I was basically the account exec. I set up the project. I got a VP of marketing at Luxor to sign away to help us out. It was 2010, so everyone was still reeling from the 2008 economic crash. And that was the reason we got it anyway. Because at that point, Mirage, which was the corporation that basically owned 8 to 10 of these casinos on the strip, they didn't have a lot of money going around. They did have an internal like video group, but if you were someone like Luxor or Excalibur or Mirage, you had to wait. And mom and pop corporation, they're thinking of this new thing that they're building called City Center. And it was easy for me to go, you'd have to wait a few months for your in-house team to do it. We can come in there 2 weeks, bang it out, that kind of thing. So one of the things that we were really proud of, the producer on the commercial, he knew and did a lot of music videos for musicians in LA, San Diego. And one of these San Diego hip hop artists has a lot of connections in the LA radio market as well as the Vegas radio market. So we were like, how can we leverage that? So we basically went in there and said, listen, anytime you use music that's not just generic music, you have to pay hefty licensing fees. We said, there's this guy, he's hot, he's coming out with this new single. And actually, this is some behind the scenes stuff. In the song, he wrote a song about Vegas, like a love letter. And in the song, he said, let's meet at the Hilton. We had him go back into the studio and punch in. That's what they call when you like punch in just one word into a song, right? So he punched in and recorded over Hilton and said, let's meet at the Luxor, right? So we went into that meeting like, dude, guys, he says Luxor in the song. And so what we ended up doing was we said, listen, this band will license this song to you for nothing as long as during the 2 or 3 days that we're shooting this commercial, we have a second unit shooting his music video so that he's actually in the Luxor singing about you guys, all this stuff. And they ate it up, man. It was so cool. Well, yeah, so shortly before Thanksgiving, we went in there, we shot it, and it was funny. The VP of marketing walked by and he saw all of our gaffers and the lighting, and he was like, oh, you guys are really he didn't know what he was getting kind of thing. And it was cool. And again, it was coming out of the recession. And so some of it was money, some of it was trade. One of the trades was instead of giving us a lot of budget and a lot of money for our 40-person crew, everyone got a wristband that got them into the Luxor buffet anytime they wanted. That saved us on getting craft services. So it was like this Frankenstein kind of thing. And then the commercial was released in February. Oh, I'm sorry. The song went out on Power 106 in LA and some hip hop station in Vegas in January, and has this kind of like summer hook. Lou Adler, who I'm sure you know who that is, his son Cisco Adler sang the hook on this song. And at the time, everyone who knows who Lou Adler is. Hollywood, a music producer. He produced the Cheech and Chong movies. At the time, his son's only claim to fame was that when someone found Paris Hilton's phone, Cisco had a nude photo in her camera roll. So that was his claim to fame at the time. So anyway, so we had that. Cisco came for the music video, all these things. Dropped in January. Then by spring, they started placing the commercial. And it did so well. It did so well. And I think that combination of people not remembering, not knowing the song, but having heard it and not knowing where they heard it, and then just loving like what we did with the story that we came up with, which essentially was this, right? Like at that time, everyone knew the Luxors and the Excaliburs and all that as the Disney casinos. And so they were trying to get away from that. They were basically like, hey, last time you came here was on a trip with your parents. They stayed at the Luxor so you could be in this little fun thing, but you haven't been back since. Come back and see. This is like a grown up casino now, kind of thing. And it did so well that there's a publication that I think it's now gobbled up by Las Vegas Weekly. It's called Vegas Inc. And it used to be its own magazine, and it was like this business centric thing. And they did an article, not about us and not about our video. They didn't even mention our commercial, but it was, now that it's a recession, now that we're coming out of this 2008 mortgage collapse, right? Where are people going on vacation? So they went to Kayak, which was a kind of relatively new website at the time, and they looked up the most searched city in a 3-month span of people gearing up to go on vacation with their families in the summertime. The number one most searched destination on Kayak was Vegas, right? So they were like, okay, cool. Like this investigative reporter was like, all right, let's go one step further. If number one search city is Las Vegas, what's the number one most searched destination in Las Vegas? Now, this was 2010. No, I'm sorry, no, 2011. By the time everything dropped, City Center had opened that previous December. The Cosmo, which was not related to MGM at the time, came out New Year's, just like Disneyland. The longest lines, the most attention is to the newest ride. Like no one, even if people couldn't afford a room at the Aria or the Mandarin or whatever it was, they were still looking it up on Kayak. They were still looking at the photos of the rooms. Oh, shoot, it's $300 a night, whatever it is. So it's the most searched things should not have been Luxor. But when they did that article, the number one searched hotel on Kayak in Vegas was friggin' Luxor, right? So because of that, it was definitely in our mind, we're like, that was the commercial. Like, there was no reason an old redheaded stepchild of the MGM Mirage Corporation should have been number one. So because of that, we won 4. There's a national kind of like marketing advertising award thing called the Davy Awards, and like David versus Goliath, right? And so they give all the little guys a chance. We won 4 awards, 4 silver Davies. It was cinematography, screenwriting. I can't remember, maybe it was editing, and then marketing effectiveness. And that marketing effectiveness one was tied directly to that article. And so it was a huge win. So what happened at that point, and again, I didn't direct it, I didn't edit it, I wasn't the camera guy. I was basically the marketing account exec on that. I called the producer and I said, hey, this was a commission job. This was something that personally, like I don't personally care about gambling or casinos. And we won 4 national awards for this. Okay, I'm done not having confidence. Now I want to do something I'm interested in doing. And let me raise some money. Let me figure that part out. But I'm ready to make a film of my own. And if this thing that I don't really have a passion for won 4 awards, this thing's going to win awards. And so that was my beginning stages of putting my directorial debut together. And then in 2013, summer 2013, we went to some sound stages in LA, which is called Laurel Canyon Stages. It's the only standing spaceship set in LA. Everything else, you either got to build it from scratch or whatever. And and we shot what later became the Crystal Crypt, which I was not wrong, has won a bunch of awards. It screened at the 2016 San Diego Comic-Con. We had a San Diego Comic-Con panel. So surreal. So that was my directorial debut. And then from that point on, 2013 on, by the time we got to like 2016, 2017, I was introducing myself. When I meet people, I'm now, hi, I'm a filmmaker. Because at that point, I had so many videos and films and commercials and music videos under my belt. That's where it went. And also, that's the type of referrals I want. Right. So I do, like you said, I do a lot of different things, music and photography and video and these kinds of things. But where my passion lies and what I love doing is filmmaking. And so that's a long-winded origin story, but that's where it led to.
I love that it's almost incidental, the filming of the commercial. Like
Mhm.
the fact that you had to put together all of these assets and relationships in a way that fit the situation and goals of everybody involved. The story of the production is probably as interesting or more
Hmm.
than the actual, okay, we're marking out a scene and figuring out the lines and
Yeah.
script writing.
Well, I'm glad you feel that way. That's because I was in it. I've got my blinders, so I don't really see it that way. But that's fun. Yeah. It was cool.
All right. I want to pivot a little bit to your personal background. Maybe, tell us where you grew up and what were your hobbies and interests when you were a young person.
Yeah. My parents are from the country of Iran. And prior to 1978, the country was fairly modernized. Roads, cities, men and women weren't separated as they are now thing. But I think once that Shah had taken over, a lot of bases in Iran were partnered with the US Air Force to keep track of the other stuff going on in the Middle East and all that. There was a religious right movement in the country that was not interested in the United States and their help and all this stuff. And they were like, okay, before we started getting help with roads and infrastructure, we were a self sufficient country. And now look at this influence from the West. Now we have nightclubs where women are scantily clad and everyone's drinking alcohol. We don't like this. So these super conservative religious people started to gain traction, started to, create this nationalistic kind of screw the US, screw everyone else kind of mentality. And by the time I was born, my dad saw, or by the time my mom was pregnant, he saw the shit hitting the fan soon. Like it hadn't yet, but he was like, something's going on. She had a sister in LA. He's, you know what, just I don't know what's going to happen here. And he sent her out early. He wrapped things up for a few months. By the time he got to California, I was already born. So he missed my birth, poor guy. Not that anything happens. And especially in those days, I don't even think the husband was allowed in the delivery room. But um, then I was born, and then hostage situation in Iran. They took the students, took the embassy hostage, and it was many days. It was huge, right? It was, I think, end of Carter and beginning of Reagan's administration, and it was just this whole fiasco. And so my parents were lucky to get out. Now, they were unlucky because of my dad's foresight. When they came to America, nothing had happened yet, so they couldn't get refugee status. Dun, dun. So they worked 10, 15 years on getting citizenship, and they finally eventually got it, worked through it, got it. They're now both American citizens, which is awesome. And yeah, so Southern California, that was my stomping grounds. And we lived in LA for a while, moved to the high desert, which is kind of near the Lancaster, Palmdale area, because my dad wanted an expensive, huge house with a farm. And of course, it's a desert, so you can't really farm out there. So we had sheep, though. We had sheep. We had a pigeon coop with like 100 pigeons, chickens, cats, dogs, that kind of thing. And then eventually my mom was like, if you don't take me back to the urban, I'm going to go insane. So then we moved to Orange County, and that's where I lived from about seventh grade all the way through college, getting married, having kids. And then in 2008, when the economy crashed, I could not find a job. Could not find a job. No one was hiring. At the time, I had two kids. So I didn't care what it was. Give me some job. I need to pay my mortgage, right? And it was a California-sized mortgage, right? So it was crazy. Couldn't find anything, and I would have taken anything. I signed up for stocking at Target, stuff like that, and they were like, "You don't really have any experience doing this." I'm like, "Dude, I can bring cans to the front of a shelf. Like, just hire me." No, no one was hiring. And at the time, my wife was in graduate school, this online program, so she didn't necessarily have to go to class. And it was opportune time. She was born and raised. Oh no, she wasn't born. She was basically 1 when she moved to Vegas. So her entire family lives in Vegas. There's this whole support system. And so in 2008, when the economy crashed and I could not for the life of me find work in California, we came out here and we've been here ever since. That was 2008, August 2008 when we moved here. 2010 was the Luxor thing, and the rest is history.
Well, I want just before we skip filmmaking, everybody that has that passion has the same. There's certain films or certain filmmakers that are just the most inspirational. Maybe you could talk about some of those that inspired you to create.
I'll name a few. I'll name a handful here. Some of my favorite directors of all time, and of course, there's many. Like it's as a filmmaker, as someone who loves movies, I mean, it's impossible. There's probably a list of 100 films and directors that I love, but Agnes Varda, she was a trailblazing filmmaker in the French New Wave, one of the few females doing it at the time. And she's insane. She's amazing. A lot of her films, there's mirrors everywhere. And you're like, how did you shoot this in the 60s? There's no after effectsing, masking out the camera from the mirror. Where is your camera? Like, I, I don't know how she got some of her shots. And then on top of that, the storylines, like beautiful stuff. Then when she got older, she started doing documentaries, did a documentary on the Black Panther Party. Prolific. Agnes Varda. If you're not familiar with her, please look her up. She created cinema in a way that I think is usually attributed to a lot of other people, but maybe that's just misogyny. Who knows? But so Agnes Varda, definitely one. Hayao Miyazaki. Since we're doing video, I got a few Miyazaki tattoos, right? Hayao Miyazaki, Studio Ghibli, like amazing. There is not something that Miyazaki has directed that I've hated. There are some things that his studio has done where he was not in the director's chair where I'm like, but he's just a huge inspiration to me. Story-wise, directing-wise, I very much aspire to be like a Miyazaki. Guillermo del Toro on the same level, and he's got stuff where it's like highbrow cinema, and then he's got stuff that's Hellboy, Blade 2, and you're just like, whoa. So he's got a whole gamut going. Nice to see that someone from Mexico, someone who you would never think of going up the ranks, getting to film things with huge budgets, with the prospect of getting an Oscar. So good. And then again, storyline, how they shot things, beautiful. Last one I'm going to say, this guy, he's basically an editor. He's basically a video essayist. His name is Tony Zhao, I believe is the pronunciation of his last name. And he had a YouTube channel that you can still go to. He has not, I think he got hired by someone once his channel blew up and he's just stopped uploading to it. But I would highly suggest everyone going to this YouTube channel and watch every single video that's on there. It's called Every Frame a Painting. You've seen it? Have you seen that
Yes.
channel?
Yes, I had forgotten about it until you mentioned it.
So this guy basically does film analysis, film history, film analysis, and he does these YouTube video essays where he basically writes out an essay, records it as a voiceover, and then uses clips from the films to carry the point home. Amazing, amazing work. And the videos that he has created, I've shared so many times with so many people because it helps people understand what goes into a film. Honestly, when you watch a film, the goal of the filmmaker is to get you to get sucked into the story. They don't want you thinking how this was made. They don't want you thinking, how did they do that? Or what did they do? They want you wrapped up in the story so that you're bawling your eyes at the end or whatever, right? So to bring that emotional satisfaction at the end. And so every frame of painting, uh, he goes through stunts of Jackie Chan, the scripts of Chuck Jones, and the what's up, Doc? What's the rabbit? I'm drawing a blank here. Bugs Bunny, right? It's insane. He's Steven Spielberg and the Oneer. Honestly, great. Just because we don't have all day to go through my 100 favorite filmmakers, those are like my all-time top 4 filmmakers who influence pretty much a lot of what I do.
All right. I'll watch the clock because I did have 30 questions about Stanley Kubrick that I'll skip. Let's
Shit, well, Kubrick is definitely number 5 if we're gonna do a top 5.
There's Tony Zhao talking about Barry Lyndon. Let's come back to a little bit more recent topic, UNLV. You
Mhm.
work with the fine arts department, and I have just mad respect for just about everything going on at the university. Maybe you could talk about the department, the things you
Mhm.
do, and some of the upcoming events that are
Yeah.
going to be really special.
Yeah. So my first contract with UNLV was in 26, and really they just so there's a head of communications, director of communications now, and her name is Jennifer Vaughn, and you're familiar with her. A lot of people in town know her. She does a lot of PR. She has been in that role for over 20 years now. And when she first began at UNLV, late 90s, I want to say, her role was PR. It was pitching stories to stations, it was press releases, that kind of thing. Fast forward 10, 15 years, and now there's Facebook on her lap. Now there's Twitter, Instagram, all these things that are taking away time from what her role really was, right? The pitching and the stories and the press releases. And I hired a new dean who is our current boss, Dean Nancy Usher. She came in and Jennifer was like, I need help. I literally need to delegate this social media stuff so I can get the job done that I was basically hired for. And the dean took a chance. Now, this is insane because most of the colleges, right? So there's the university. Within the university, there's the separate colleges, and then under the colleges are the departments and schools. Um, most of the colleges on campus have the one person in that role. But we are the arts. We've got the symphony orchestra, jazz, film festivals, theater, musicals, art exhibitions, honestly, dance recitals. The list of things that are going on is just so immense that sometimes we even have events 2 or 3, and even pick your poison kind of thing. So the dean said, "Sure, you can get some help." The call went out there. At the time, I was probably 2 or 3 years in on being a part of the American Marketing Association, and that job went up on the website, on the job board. So I put my resume in, came in, met with Jennifer, and she was like, "Ooh, you're overqualified for this. Your marketing, your Luxor commercial, your film in 2013." We were just envisioning a graduate assistant coming in and posting something on Instagram once a week kind of thing. And I said, if I don't do this, I'm either going to have to Uber or bar back somewhere because I'm a freelance filmmaker and that's feast or famine. Some months I'm doing almost too well. And then it's 3 months of zero. And I've got 2 kids. I can't, I need some consistency and then I can think about freelance. So they took a chance on me, I came in, I repivoted the position, right? Because as a photographer, as a filmmaker, I know social is not text and a link. Video and photos are everything about your marketing on social. So, without having a hat or title called videographer, I'm communications specialist. I started filming things, student spotlights, all these different things. And every year in July, it was like a nail biting situation because I didn't know if my contract would be renewed. Every year it had to, okay, is this the moment where now I'm going back to 100% freelance? But they loved me so much. I'm still there. They haven't kicked me to the curb yet. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it was a very cool synergy. I helped them meet their goals. As far as communications, there's 2 things that are very important in higher education. That's recruitment, right? So, number one, I feel like it's my job to soothe parents on two fronts. On one front, whether they're local or not, hey, the arts are big business. They don't need something to fall back on. The arts, especially in Vegas, where when these kids graduate, they go right to being in the orchestra for Lady Gaga. They can go work for Cirque du Soleil doing stage management. You know, it's not what you think. You know what I mean? So it's my job to soothe parents that way, but it's also my job to soothe parents of families who aren't local, who are like, Las Vegas, 24-hour drinking, gambling. Where am I sending my kids? No. There's some really cool art happening here, really cool music, really cool theater. And so there's that, the soothing portion of it, of the recruitment. But it's also getting the word out on all of the amazing things because these students are they're next year's artists. They are doing the future of art. And so getting the word out about that kind of stuff. So as far as things coming up, there's a lot. I would suggest going to the website unlv.edu/fine arts. Click into the events. There are so many events coming up. It's not even funny. But two that I'm fairly involved in, more so than a lot of the student type things. Number one is Art Walk. This is going to be the 8th Art Walk. And Ben, correct me if I'm wrong. You've been to every single one, right? Or did you go to the first one in
I don't know that I've
2017?
been to everyone, but if I'm in town, I try not to miss that. That's one of my favorite things every year.
It's amazing. Quick story on that before I get the date out there. One of the things that happens on most college campuses is everyone is in their own department is working on their own stuff, their own projects, their own research, their own recitals and performances. So you get siloed. You don't know. Our architecture students have no idea what the theater students are doing, have no idea what the dance students are doing, have no idea what the sculpture students are doing, right? So the Dean Usher, came up with this idea. What if we just put everyone in booths and stuff on the mall? And everyone can see what everyone's working on, everyone can get energized, and it'll be something that we invite the community to. So we were set. This was months and months of planning. And then the Sunday before the inaugural art walk was the Route 98 shooting at Mandalay Bay, which was devastating to everyone in town. Everyone in town had PTSD because you were either there or you knew someone who was there, either as an attendee or a bartender or a bouncer, a Uber driver. Like everyone was connected to that festival who lived in town in some way, shape, or form, even if it was like a 2 degrees of separation thing. So come Monday, the dean was, oh man, should we even do art walk? Is it insensitive knowing what just happened to do this week? Should we postpone? Should we this and that? And we ultimately decided not to. We ultimately decided, you know what? It is a community invitation thing. Whoever shows up, we still have our art galleries. We're not changing what we're doing. I think we got probably 600-700 people to come, which is not anything to bat your eyes at, but was more than we thought. We thought everyone would but man, it was cathartic. Seeing, because now I'm getting emotional. The arts heal, and to see the community come and get this cathartic experience to go beyond this haze that we were in for the week after the shooting. It was amazing. So then the following year was year 2. Even more people showed up. Year 3, thousands of people showed up. And again, we don't really have an RSVP. It's open to everyone. But at these things, there are free food giveaways. There are free drinks, wine and beer. Past couple of years, we've had a beer garden, in fact. And so the number of drinks given, so it doesn't really count anyone under 21, but it gives us a kind of an idea of how many people, thousands, have begun coming to these art walks. We missed 2020, obviously, for certain reasons. And then, 2021 did a socially distancing version of it, where we lit up the Klaus Ohlenberg flashlight and it was this whole to-do. The president of the university came. And ever since then, it's become an official UNLV event, which there's a lot of department events and things of that nature. It has become an official UNLV event, which I'm super proud of. But again, so this year it's on November 1st. It's First Friday. So come hang out with us. And then if you need to after party, First Friday is happening downtown kind of thing. But come drink and eat for free with us. Walk around, see what all the students are doing. All of the gallery spaces on campus are open. The weather is usually beautiful at that point in time, and the students are doing things that are quite amazing. So again, unlv.edu/fine arts. In the menu, you will find the Art Walk website where you can see info, photos, video from last year to give you an idea of the kinds of things that happen. And then you'll see me there. I'll be filming as I do every single year. I love it. It's quite fun. And here's another quick little tidbit before I go on to the next thing. Every year, we were trying to figure out a digital guide to this thing. Oh man, we tried Adobe Express, we've tried Canva, we've tried all these different things, and there's so much going on at Art Walk. We never really pinpointed something that worked or that people were receptive to, regardless of their age or tech savviness. Last year, though, I found a WordPress plugin that everyone fell in love with because it had everything. You could select what you want to see. If it's just architecture, just dance, just film, you want to see just where the free food is, that kind of thing. When you click into an event, it has a little button where it takes you to a map. So now you can Google Map and walk your way there and you're not confused. So I'm really happy that resonated with everyone because it was an uphill battle finding something that that it was intuitive. They didn't need a training session for. So we're going to keep going with that this year. The other thing I'm really excited about, on October 25th, we're doing those, and I'm sure people have seen it, where they do a movie, but they have an orchestra doing the music live. Those are pretty popular. So we're doing Disney Pixar's Coco, because October 25th, first of all, it's Nevada Day. So we're hoping everyone and their kids are off that day so they can afford to come to an 8 o'clock showing of Coco. But it's also leading into the following week is Dia de Muertos, which is a huge crux of the story in Coco. And that's going to be so much fun. The orchestra, because I think in Vegas, there was already a few years ago, they did this with Coco. I think it was the Henderson Symphony Orchestra. For this one, it's actually a Disney Pixar tour, and they have the official orchestra from Mexico doing the music, which is that's going to be amazing. But the crazy thing about the orchestra, they use a lot of pre-colonial instruments in their repertoire. So that's going to be insane. But usually, so this Coco live music film event, it's part of the UNLV Performing Arts Center season. That's one thing that a lot of people may or may not know about. A lot of people, they think of UNLV, they think of the Performing Arts Center, and they think, that's where my junior high student did his trombone recital. Yes. Or that's where the UNLV students do their stuff. Yes. There's a lot of student performances and things of that nature. But there's also a season, and this is the 8th year, years before Smith Center existed, years before Brooklyn Bowl. This venue has been doing a lot of seasons where global artists come. So this is just one of the many, this 48th season of things that are happening. But of most of the events on the season, the Performing Arts Center tries to do a community component. And so I'm on that committee, and we were trying to figure out what's the community component for Coco. And I was like, it's literally the week before Dia de Muertos. So why don't we do an ofrenda, which it's Spanish for altar. And in Mexico, they create these altars, these ofrendas, and you see them prominently promoted in the movie of Coco. But it's a way to, during Dia de Muertos, which is November 1st, 2nd, to invite your past loved ones to come back to Earth, to come hang out with you, to know that you haven't forgotten them, that kind of thing. So we're going to build a community one. It's going to be in the Ham Hall lobby. We've recruited my really good friend Elsa Cantu to build it. She's built ofrendas the past two years, maybe 3 years, at the Springs Preserve. Every year for Dia de Muertos, they have these things. So we invited her, hey, instead of doing the Springs Preserve this year, let's do this in partnership with this Coco thing. What's going to happen is this. On October 4th, free parking, free entrance. You come, we're going to unveil her ofrenda, which is, I'm not even going to tell you, it's going to be this huge, it's going to be epic. On that day, a lot of UNLV folks, they're going to bring their photos of their past parents, family members, loved ones. We're also going to include the photos of the 3 professors who passed away on December 6th when that gunman came to campus and started shooting up the business school. When you show up, it's going to be their photos, it's going to be some photos from UNLV, but then we're going to open it up. So for the 2 weeks from October 4th to the Coco show on October 25th, we will accept framed 4x6 photos from anybody in town. So that on October 25th, when people see the final version of this altar, it includes your family. So come on October 4th, we're going to have Aztec dancers. We're going to have people from the consulate of Mexico here. It's going to be amazing. And like I said, free. So October 4th, free ofrenda unveiling. And then October 25th is not free, but it's Nevada Day. So get your ticket, come hang out, come see the final community version of the altar. And I'm super excited about that. So it's like a multi-pronged event, but really stoked.
I couldn't be more excited about all of that. And just in general, everything UNLV and the Fine Arts Group do, the department, is always just first rate. It's a gorgeous campus.
It really is.
Especially that time of year, that end of October, beginning of November. It could be the prettiest time of year in Las
Honestly.
Vegas.
See, a light jacket is all you need.
There you go. All right. I want to pivot back to you a bit. What is a book you recommend or have given most often as a gift?
That's a good question. Ooh,
We ask the tough questions here.
yeah, no, that's a good one. Let me go with fiction on this one. Because honestly, I have recommended this book and gifted this book several times, and it's not even that big of a book. It's a book called Slade House, and it's from the author who a lot of people might remember the Tom Hanks, Halle Berry movie Cloud Atlas. That was it was a film created by the 2 siblings who created the Matrix trilogy, but it was based on a book. That author wrote a ghost story called Slade House. I have never, and I've read a lot. I've read Clive Barker, I've read Stephen King, and while a lot of things that happen in those books are unsettling, there's twists, there's turns, but you're just reading it. You're reading the book, you're digesting what's happening and coming up with what's unfolding in your mind's eye. No, Slade House. You can read it in a weekend. That's how short it is. It freaked me out. Freaked me out. The twists, unseen, so smart. Did not see them coming. Highly recommend it. And so, yeah, on social media, whenever anyone says, hey, do you have a recommendation for a spooky story? Yes. Slade House by David Mitchell.
Now, a couple questions about Las Vegas.
Sure.
So you got here at pretty much a low point for the city. Maybe could you contrast how Las Vegas is different today than your first experience when you came here?
Oh, yeah. It's changed a few times, honestly, because when I came, those were the early years of Tony Hsieh, and Zappos was headquartered in Henderson. They were making big moves. Then all of a sudden, Amazon bought Zappos, a shoe retailer, for $1 billion, which is insane. So then Tony Hsieh took that money and created the Downtown Project, which out of that came all kinds of things like 11th Street Records, like Commonwealth, what's that music festival? Life is Beautiful, all kinds of things. The revitalization of downtown. Then Zappos moved from Henderson to the old, not courthouse, but one of those government buildings downtown, right on Las Vegas Boulevard, changed everything.
It was the old City Hall.
That's what it was, City Hall. There you go. And that was still during a low point, but it made everyone optimistic. It made everyone like, okay, what is this? Silicon Valley 2.0? Then shortly after Tony Hsieh sadly passed away, and it was not a planned death, or not that they usually are, but it was not a suicide. It was not, and it was just this untimely thing. Um, I think there's been another resurgence since, but I think you can attribute a lot of that to Zappos, to Tony Hsieh, just for getting the ball rolling. But now downtown, where the Beverly Theater and Writer's Block are, it's looking more and more beautiful every day. Downtown Main Street, when I moved here, that was where the mechanic shops and the homeless, and that's where they were. You wanted to go to Fremont, you didn't want to go to Maine. You didn't, as a local, right? Actually, still there are locals who don't go downtown, but I'm like, no, you guys, it's totally different. It's been gentrified for sure. But now Main Street's got theaters and ice cream shops and all kinds of things. There's more than one brewery now. It's just it's crazy. What I do love about that, though, is that within the theater and music and art scenes, it's giving them more and more reputable venues. For decades, everything local had to fight everything on the strip. How do you get people to come to your thing when you can't even compete with the number of advertising placements that these casinos can afford? You'll easily get diluted. So how do you do it? How do you get someone to come to your concert and not the Celine Dion or the whoever the residency is in town? Oh, speaking of which, it's not really a residency, but the weekend that we're taping this is actually Labor Day weekend. And Nas from New York is doing his 30-year anniversary of his inaugural album, Illmatic. And his 3-night show in Vegas, I caught it on Thursday. It was with the Las Vegas Philharmonic, which has at least 12, 13 of the UNLV School of Music professors, right? So I went to this and I'm looking at colleagues on stage with Nas, crazy. But it was so nice because usually artists either skip Vegas altogether or they're not having a good time. I don't know if it's because they gambled and lost a bunch of them. I don't know what it is, right? But he was so appreciative of the town, of the musicians behind him. He asked people to clap for them so many times. But yeah, so I think the recognition that locals and non-locals are giving local artists, it just didn't happen before. And so I'm really loving to see that kind of change in Las Vegas, where it's not just the headliners. Locals aren't just ticket takers. We're not just the bartenders. We are creators as well, doing stuff that should be on the national stage. Like you talked about the Sphere earlier. The Sphere has all kinds of art that they put on the thing. The first thing to open up for non-Sphere related designs or art, they did a contest with UNLV where they gave, I think it was like 20, 30 students Oculus virtual reality goggles and a program where they, in virtual reality, designed the art that was going to go up for 4th of July. Seeing Madison Square Garden take an interest in local artists and giving them, it's just amazing. So that's the biggest change that I've seen, where the artists in town are no longer, you don't have to dig, scratch under the surface. We are getting the recognition that we deserve, and I love it.
Yeah, people think of other things when you say the words Las Vegas, but there is no Las
Totally.
Vegas without performance, design, artists. Certainly extends to culinary.
Oh, totally.
Every way that creativity is expressed infuses Las Vegas with something special.
Agreed.
All right. What are your favorite groups or organizations that help you connect with people in the Valley?
What I will have to say, and I did mention them earlier, American Marketing Association. I joined because at the time I was a VP of marketing of this is like a tech company in town, and the CEO popped his head into my office and was like, "I signed you up for something. Go." And I was like, "Okay, I'm not sales. I'll go." And I went, and everyone that was a part of it, super kind, super nice. It's basically a marketing and advertising club, but there wasn't this huge pressure that you had to bring referrals for everyone, that you come at your own comfort level. And there is a headquarters of American Marketing Association in Chicago, and then they have all the different city chapters, and each city chapter, based on the demographics of their town, they are basically a completely different beast, right? In Vegas, the AMA is almost like a monthly TED Talk or series of panels where you're learning from experts. And so that alone was cool. You have to eat lunch anyway. Why not go and learn? And so while I'm no longer on the board, I still love going. I still love the types of programming that they do. I still love the people. I can't, because of the AMA website, I now am an administrative faculty member at UNLV. That would not have happened because I would not have seen the job come through. So they're one. Another, I would say, is the small, tight knit, um, and they're not really even, it's not even like an official group or anything, but the tight knit group of promoters that we have in town. Again, thinking with my music cap on, it's really hard. It's really hard to get people to, kind of to get through all of the noise, because Vegas is an entertainment capital of the world. There is stuff happening all day, every day, as with your websites having the calendar of all these things. There's just so much going on. So to break through the clutter, to get people to come to shows, 100, 200, 300 people, they're doing the work that none of us want to do. So I would like to give a shout out to the promoters of Las Vegas. You guys are kicking butt, and you are making the connections. You are putting the local acts onto these national tours so that people who are coming to see the whoever end up experiencing the local artists. So,
All right. Love that. Next is we get the hard questions for you. What is your favorite meal in Las Vegas?
mm, my favorite meal in Las Vegas at the moment, and I think it does change quite a bit. Let me go with I'm gonna go with a dish that I dream of all the time. There is a pho place in Chinatown, which, by the way, Spring Mountain, there's at least 80 restaurants on Spring Mountain that I'm in love with, that I would go to at any point in time. Hafez, the Iranian restaurant, Golden Tiki, the Tiki Bar, Sapporo. Oh no, Sapporo, is that on Spring Mountain? Yeah, Sapporo, Revolving Sushi. I mean, there's just on and on. There's so much in Shanghai Plaza. But the dish that I dream of in the shopping center of Golden Tiki, just a couple stores down, you go to this pho place, it's Kim Long, right? And they have a dish that is at most pho places, but every time I've had it at other restaurants, it does not live up to it. So you have to go to this one on Spring Mountain. It's the vermicelli salad. Now, I know usually people go, they get the pho, they want the soup, they get the pad thai, Vietnamese, fusion kind of stuff. No, you need to get the vermicelli salad. They've got it in shrimp, beef, chicken. I get it with the chicken at this restaurant. The chicken is charbroiled, it's juicy. They give you this, it's almost like a light, clear sauce that's really your salad dressing. So everything is on a bed of lettuce. Then you get your vermicelli noodles. Then you get your egg rolls. You get the chicken. You get the nuts that they usually put on pad thai. Oh my God, dude. Like, it's so good that I dream of it. I dream of it. And if there's ever a chance, if I'm around Spring Mountain, or if I'm getting off a gig, or you wrapped a shoot and I'm near Chinatown, boom, I'm going there. I don't know if they still are, because a lot of things have changed since COVID, but they used to be 24/7. So you get out of the club, you get out of the casino, boom, go down the Spring Mountain, or even shoot, leaving Golden Tiki, walk down. Here you go. You're right there. Amazing. The chicken vermicelli salad. Oh, and you know what? For people who don't necessarily want to go to Chinatown or aren't on that side of town, they opened a second location in the roundabout at Town Square. So if you go to Town Square, it's at the roundabout by the movie theater and Yard House. That little roundabout, you will see this pho place, and cannot recommend the chicken vermicelli salad enough. I dream of it.
I've been eating at the one in Town Square, but I don't
What do
know.
you usually get?
When you go to a pho place, you get pho.
No, not if I go to that one.
You
Yeah,
know?
dude, I've gone to other pho places and ordered the chicken vermicelli salad. Like cold noodles, like weird chicken that's not charbroiled. No. I would recommend you go anywhere else, get your pho, but you go there, like 5-star review for that chicken vermicelli salad. Or if you're feeling like you're not, this is Vegas, right? If it's too hot for soup, chicken vermicelli, baby.
No, I'm starving. What is your favorite spot, or what are favorite spots to view the city?
Ooh, there's a spot that I love, and you actually have to be driving. But if you're on going east on Horizon Ridge, at some point you're going to hit a street called Arroyo Grande. You take a left on Arroyo Grande and you start going downhill to get to where, if anyone's familiar with the Cornerstone little man-made lake little thing on Wigwam and Arroyo Grande. So you're on a downhill. There's at least like a mile where you're looking at the entire strip. And at night, it is so beautiful. So that's one, definitely. I don't know if it's called this anymore, but at Mandalay Bay, they have the Delano Tower. At the top of that tower is a restaurant. I don't know what it's called now. It used to be called Mix, and it's one of those sit downs. It's probably $100 a person. It's got to be like a birthday or some kind of special occasion to go. But unbelievable views of the city. Which also, I guess, Mandalay Bay, in the other tower, they have the foundation room, so it's very similar vantage point. But yeah, from Mix, that was always one of my favorites. I'm trying to think where else. Other than that, I've had friends who live in Towers on the other side of the freeway, also on Hoover, where their Millennium Fandom Bar is. It's in this building that's actually a high-rise condo thing. I've had friends live in both of those, and when you do, you take advantage of that, especially during New Year's and the fireworks, and just unbelievably beautiful views. And it's such a beautiful town because from the one side, you've got the strip, and then the other side, you've got these beautiful mountains. What about you? You tell me yours. What are your favorite spots?
Some of them are in the middle of the city. The high tea at the Waldorf Astoria, where you're in city center and you're surrounded by the city, especially like late afternoon. We've had some events at the Hard Rock Cafe, which has a wonderful balcony.
We're just there.
Yeah. Some of the usuals, like the rooftops, like the foundation room to me is iconic. That picture of Vegas that you get from there is probably one of the most famous views of the city. Almost any of the rooftops, or if you're in like the Cosmo and you're at the pool where they have some concerts and things, you're surrounded.
Do they still do those?
They
I remember there was one. Who was it? I can't remember if it was Two Door Cinema Club or Santee Gold or something. We got a room. We split it between 6, 7 people, and so our balcony overlooked the stage. It was awesome. So we got the view of the city, we get the pool, we get the musicians. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, and like the Cromwell has some spots. If you get over there. Anyway, I like some of the ones that are in the middle of the city, and then we've got some beautiful views. I'm also in Henderson. So there's any number of spots where you're up at a high point. Like you mentioned Horizon Ridge, and about Horizon Ridge, and I think Carnegie, there's a little hidden little park in there. And the whole trail is this zigzag up the hill. And you're basically just looking out over the city the whole time.
So that's Horizon Ridge and Carnegie. Is that where the trailhead is?
Yes, I think so.
Cool. I'll have to check
Probably
that
need
out.
to look it up before I give you directions.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Final question. If you could share a phrase or a quote or idea with just millions of people, what would that be?
Hmm. Since no quotes are immediately popping to mind, I think I'll just say as long as you do the things that you love, and by this, the types of things you work on, the types of career you have, the types of hobbies you pick up, the types of books you read, as long as you're doing something that you love, then working at it is not a big deal. Practicing it, honing those skills, because you love doing it, you don't mind doing it. And that will save you heartache, that'll save you headache. So that's something that I try and implore to my kids, to folks who were students at UNLV. Don't do things because that's what the world thinks you should be doing, or your parents, or whoever it might be. Do what you love, and it'll be no problem, like I said, honing your skills, but other people will feel it. They'll see it. And so, like I said, I went to undergrad for sociology because I wanted my parents to be proud of me for not going into the arts, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy in the degree. I wasn't happy in the types of work I had afterward. Now that I'm doing the things that I love, literally day in and day out, people can tell. The referrals come hand over fist, sometimes to the point where I have a Rolodex of other filmmakers that I need to delegate stuff to because I'm too busy. So that's something I would implore to millions of people. Do what you love, even if it, because would you do that thing even if nobody paid you? If the answer is yes, keep doing it. At some point, they're gonna pay you to do that. They will. So
Love it. How can people follow you or get in touch? I'll include this in our notes. But
yeah, so I'm slowly starting to, now that we're about 24, 25 years into social media, I'm starting to back off on social media a little bit. So the best way to get into contact with me, to see all of the new stuff I have going on, is my website. My website does also link to my social platforms in case that's something that you want to follow me on, but it's just shahabzargari.net. And that's my hub. You can find links to every other thing that you would need from that hub, but there's also a news feed there of everything I've got coming up.
awesome. I want to thank you, congratulate you on the great stuff you've got going on.
Oh, thanks. I want to thank you for having me on here. I should have probably brought this up at the beginning of the podcast, when before people have dropped off. So to those of you that are still listening, thanks. Yeah, I remember when you were toying with the idea of this podcast. So I want to congratulate you. Like, you've got a bunch of really amazing episodes under your belt, and I remember it just being an idea, and you were soundboarding off me. And you're like, "Is this even a good idea?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah." With all of the people that Ben knows, like the people who are behind the scenes making things happen in this town. So yeah, like I was on board. I was like, do it. And then summer was jam packed. So when summer was winding down, I was like, hey Ben, okay, I'm ready now. So congratulations to you, and thank you for bringing me onto this podcast. This has just been so much fun.
Thank you. And like I said, I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thanks, man.
All right. Take care.
See ya.